So here we go, guys. In Politico, Bernie Sanders to Democrats. Change course before you nosedive in November. The Vermont Independent isn't buying the happy talk from a party still talking up a pre-midterm turnaround, and he has a prescription to avoid it. All right, so Bernie, what's your idea? Let's see here. This is from Burgett Everett in Politico. He says, Bernie Sanders has something to get off his chest. Without a course correction, he sees the Democratic Party on track to get shellacked this fall. As the progressive Vermonter, not one to mince words, put it in an interview on Tuesday, quote, "You really can't win an election with a bumper sticker that says, well, we can't do much, but the other side is worse." Okay, that is literally exactly what the Democrats try to do. That's exactly what they try to do. So he's warning against it, but let's see his prescription. The Republicans stand an excellent chance of gaining control of the House and quite possibly the Senate, Sanders said, while the GOP's anti-abortion stance and opposition to more sweeping firearm restrictions may help Democrats. He warned that if they think they're going to march to victory based on those issues, I think that is not correct. So here's where Bernie's economic populism and his class politics kicks in. He's saying, look, that's not enough. That's not enough. You need to materially improve people's lives. It's about their wallets and their pocketbooks. It's about economics, stupid. With the majorities flashing before Democrats' eyes, the independent who caucuses with them is asking his leadership, from President Joe Biden on down, to acknowledge that the party can't actually do what it wants with two centrist senators as their deciding votes. After that real talk, Sanders wants Democrats to make the case for more Democratic power in 2023 through a Newt Gingrich-style contract with America. See, now that's interesting. What he's saying is, hey, Joe Biden and other Democrats, point the finger at the people who are guilty, point the finger at Kyrsten Sinema, point the finger at Joe Manchin, call them out, make them pariahs, and say, you need to replace them with better Democrats, give me a majority with people who will actually vote the right way, and then I'll get you what you want. And he's saying you can make a contract with America type thing. Look, if you vote in this many Democrats, if you get rid of Manchin and Sinema and replace them with people who will actually do the right thing, well, then we'll get you, whatever, various provisions of Build Back Better. Universal pre-K, elder care, lower prescription drug prices, extended child tax credit, etc., etc. That's the argument that Bernie Sanders is making. Okay, they go, it's a long-shot attempt to break the malaise hanging over the Democratic Party as Biden's polling remains underwater and its senators grow nervous about holding their majority with Republicans favored to take the House. Many Democrats are hoping bad Republican candidates, a Biden rebound, or a last-minute flurry of modest legislation could help save their congressional majorities. Sanders, though, is done with such happy thoughts. Quote, say to the American people, look, we don't have the votes to do it right now. We have two corporate Democrats who are not going to be with us, Sanders said, referring to Senator Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. The leadership has got to go out and say, we don't have the votes to pass anything significant right now. Sorry, you got 48 votes, and we need more to pass it. That should be the message of this campaign. Sanders' call comes at a precarious moment for the party. Last year, Democrats united to pass a $1.9 trillion coronavirus relief bill, then worked with Republicans to pass a historic infrastructure bill, but Manchin rejected the larger climate and jobs bill known as Build Back Better in December, and efforts to sway him and Sinema to weaken the legislative filibuster ran aground. Okay, so he goes on, in other words of Sanders, quote, two corporate Democrats, Manchin and Sinema, sabotage Build Back Better, and it has been downhill ever since for the Democratic Party. So it's simple. Bernie's just calling on Biden and calling on Democrats to call out the problem. It's Sinema, it's Manchin, they're the problem, get rid of them, give me people who will vote the right way, and then I promise we'll get you X, Y, and Z. Here's the list. That's Bernie's argument. Now, is there a logic to it? Yes. Is it a reasonable argument? Yeah, but here's the problem. Notice now Bernie has changed his tune. Recently, or going back maybe 4 or 5 months, what was he saying? I know because we covered it. Bernie made the argument, Joe, why are you not proposing individual pieces of Build Back Better and trying to pass them through reconciliation or making an exception to the filibuster for those issues and trying to pass it with 51 votes? If Manchin and Sinema both say, hey, I'm for universal pre-K, I'm just not for the whole package of Build Back Better, then you say, okay, well, here's a standalone bill on Build Back Better that we're going to do through reconciliation or do with an exception to the filibuster. All we need is 51 votes. If you guys are in favor of it, vote the right way. Here you go. That's what Bernie was saying previously. So in other words, he wasn't making the argument, look, we can't do it now. You got to change the makeup of the system. He didn't make that argument before. He made the argument, no, we actually do have the numbers to do it, but you have to be smart and savvy with how you approach it. So now he changed his position. Look, there was a time when Bernie was saying, just like we're saying, well, what the fuck, Joe? Use your executive order pen. Joe Biden has the authority to eliminate student loan debt. He has the authority to legalize marijuana. He has the authority to free the nonviolent drug offenders. He has the authority to do a number of these important issues. He has the authority to lower prescription drug prices. He has the ability to do that right now if he wants to. He's not doing it. So Bernie, as much as I love Bernie, let's keep it real. He keeps weakening the ask. The ask was do the executive orders, and that became, okay, do individual standalone bills that are from Build Back Better through reconciliation. And now it's just, all right, just say Manchin and Sinema are the problem and say get me 2 new ones, and then we'll vote the right way then. Well, look, have you ever heard of the rotating villain theory? That idea is, if it wasn't Manchin and Sinema, it would be 2 others. It would be Mark Warner and somebody else who plays the villain. So there's always, oh, would you look at that? There always just happens to be the right number of people to block real change. And so that's why I don't like this strategy that Bernie's calling for, because it's defeatist. It's saying we can't do it now. But wait, you can do it now, you just don't have the will to do it now. Biden doesn't want to do it now. If Biden wanted to do it now, he would have signed the executive orders I just talked about. Or at the very least, he would have proposed standalone provisions from Build Back Better, like universal pre-K, like elder care, like various things that everybody says they're in favor of, like the child tax credit, etc. But he didn't do any of that. So look, the real issue here is, look in the fucking mirror. Look in the mirror. The problem is not just Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin, which it is, but it's also Joe Biden. And it's also every other Democrat who's complicit in sitting there and doing nothing. So what if we just message better? What if we scream about January 6th some more? Nonsense. So, as per usual, Bernie's making better arguments than his colleagues, but he's changed his position and weakened it. Now he's at the point where he's like, okay, yeah, right, we can't do anything, but make this change and then we'll do something. Look, I like the idea of calling a spade and saying the enemy is the enemy, like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema. But what Bernie needs to realize is, my friend Joe Biden, he's also part of the problem. Because he could have done a hell of a lot more, and he's choosing not to do it. Right this second, he's choosing not to do it. So unless Bernie's going to call out Biden and say, look, sign these executive orders. I've called for this time and time again. There should be a coalition of 14 to 20 different House progressives who say, we'll block anything Biden wants to do unless and until he breaks out that executive order pen and does this list of 10 or 20 executive orders. And then, you know what will happen? Biden will have to negotiate with them and say, I can't give you 20, but I'll give you 10, or I'll give you 8, or whatever. And then you get something done. But they're not doing that. They're not doing that. And Bernie's treating Biden like a good faith actor who wants the right things and is just lost and doesn't know how to do it. It's not true, Bernie. It's not true. And the asks are getting sadder and sadder. I mean, he's right that Democrats need to change, but they need to change now. Not in the next election, not after you oust certain people. No, you have the power to do more right now. You have the House, you have the Senate, you have the presidency. And this idea of like, well, just give us more Democrats and then it'll work. If you're not doing the most with what you have right now, why should anybody think, oh, you'll do the most with what you have in the next election cycle? It's honestly a sick joke, and it's really annoying. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.